So what prompted you to enter the seminary?
For me, it was a little bit of a different experience in that I did have a very good upbringing. My parents raised me to really appreciate my Catholic faith and to learn about it growing up in my teenage years. But I had never thought about the priesthood until I was in my early 20s. And it wasn't something that came very gradually, nor did it come extremely suddenly. So when I was about 22, I started to really have a deeper appreciation for my faith, something I'd never had before. I started experiencing much differently the Mass than I'd ever had before. And I remember this was affecting me very, very passionately. I started having these experiences where I would feel completely and totally loved in Mass when I would pray. And this prompted me to really start praying harder and to really start thinking about what this meant, why I was experiencing this love that I could only attribute as coming from God. And I remember one day specifically in the evening, I worked evenings from about 5 to 10 at the company that I'd been at, loading trucks with boxes and packages. And I remember this one specific day, I'd been thinking about this new kind of awakening to my faith that had been going on for a couple months. The idea of becoming a priest came into my head and into my heart. And this wasn't something that led me to think that night about anything further. For this night, at work, I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I just thought about it harder and harder. And it was very exciting. It wasn't intimidating at all. It was just this feeling of excitement, what this was that had come into my head and into my heart. So over the next few days and few weeks, I was thinking about this harder and praying about it. And I started going to daily Mass and really, really putting a lot into the Mass when I was there. And I would say maybe a few months later, I decided to tell my parents and to make a call to the vocations office, which was very accessible. The first person I talked to was Father Jonathan Wisniewski at the vocations office. And I remember I was very intimidated going into this because I didn't know what to expect, and I felt a little bit shy. I didn't know what I was supposed to say, and I didn't know how I was supposed to react to what I was feeling. This was definitely the best move to make right away. My parents encouraged me with this because making that appointment in the vocations office really put me at ease. And one of the first things that was suggested to me was to start spiritual direction, no matter what. Even if the priesthood wasn't for me at that time, spiritual direction was the best thing for me. I didn't know what that was at the time. I'd never heard of spiritual direction before. But I started doing it regularly. And very, pretty much right away, it started to affect me. It started to make me, or at least help me to understand what was happening to me, what God wanted for me in my life. And one thing kind of led to another as I started. I started talking to priests that I knew more often, asking them questions, telling them what I had been going through in my prayer life and in my life in general. And a few more months went by, and I decided to, I talked to my parents about it, and I decided to pursue finishing my bachelor's degree in psychology is what I wanted to do. And I had about 60 credits or so, about halfway through what it would take to get my bachelor's degree in psychology. So I got enrolled back at the University of Pittsburgh to do that with the idea of, upon completion of a bachelor's degree, applying for seminary. It was about 2.5 to 3 years after that I had officially applied, and it was almost directly after I graduated with a BS in psychology. Along that way, everything led to another. Spiritual direction was essential. I did it every month, sometimes more, and it really helped me along every step of the way. And the time really went by quickly. And I worked the whole time, too. I was always working at I worked for the same company for almost 7 years. And I would do that in the evenings, and I would attend school in the day, with that idea of entering seminary. All the priests that I talked to along the way were really beneficial.